What's up, guys? So this is my photo history presentation on Olivia Locher. Yeah, I see that last name looks a little bit weird, but it is pronounced Locher. It's a French pronunciation. And anyways, let's get started. So Olivia Locher was born in 1990 in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It's a very suburban area, almost rural. She basically lived in isolation. She didn't really go to school. She was always creative, though. She didn't really like being in this isolation that she was in. It was a very desolate area. There wasn't many schools around, so she was homeschooled by her mother growing up, and her older brother, who's also an artist, is was also homeschooled with her as well. And so when she was homeschooled, her time alone is honestly what she says developed her mind, and she discovered her passion for art and photography from what her mother was teaching her about history and times like the Renaissance and all these artistic movements. So this is basically where her creativity blossomed from. And so she knew she wanted to get out to a big city, get out of isolation. So what she did was she went to college in Manhattan. She graduated with an associate's degree, and she went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, New York. And that's actually a very good school with a lot of productive, famous artists that come out of there. She got a degree in arts and science. And when she turned 18 and was finally allowed to get out of the woods of Pennsylvania, she did what she needed to do. She went to New York City, went to school, adopted that urban lifestyle, and saw endless opportunity. She always has said how the creative flow and the nonstop action in New York City is what draws her to that urban lifestyle, makes her a better artist and stuff like that. So after she graduated, she has lived and worked in Manhattan ever since. So as I said, she has lived in New York City since 2009. After college, she is still living there, never really went back to live in Pennsylvania where she was from in the past. She fell in love with that constant flow of life. She says that New York City honestly makes her feel like she's dreaming while awake every day. And this dreaming concept and seeing flawlessness, this has been a theme in her photos as well. Multiple series, not just one that I'm specifically talking about and specifying on. But she has made a living from photographing things this way, or photographing things this way. And she is very well known, and nationwide, she has been recognized as a great photographer. She's still very young, obviously, and she surrounds herself with a lot of poets, painters, writers. Her older brother, as I said, was an artist before, is an audio visual artist who does pretty well for himself. Not very famous, though. And so Olivia is famous for her photographic work, but she has also been featured in multiple art books, multiple news journals. She's a featured editor for Vice, the New York Times Magazine, in multiple editions. She clearly has a great creative mindset, and people appreciate it. So, as far as Olivia's work goes, the series that I was focusing on is her most well-known series. It's called I Fought the Law, and basically this series looks at America's most outrageous laws, mostly varying by state, but almost all pretty funny, pretty comical. And basically these pictures gained popularity and were shared on the internet a lot, so she turned it into a book, and now you can see all the images in high definition in a picture book published by Chronicle Books. And honestly, this was a smart move for her and the book company. The books and series have been an iconic staple in recent modern American photography, and the images have been lauded and critically acclaimed. Everybody seems to be fond of these images in this series. It's very playful, very easy to look at, and as soon as I saw it, I knew that I wanted to do something like that. I like a lot of images with color myself. So, yeah, as you can see in that picture in the slide, there's some pretty cool images. And so now, what does Olivia photograph? Well, basically, she photographs people for the most part. Some of her images, even in the Fought the Law, are like pickles dropping and like stuff like that, but it has to do with that like specific law or whatever. But for the most part, she photographs people. Usually her images are very eye-popping. Like she has a lot of contrast, and depending on the paint that's on the people or the clothes that they're wearing with the background color, she's very good at making the image pop and making everything that's supposed to be focused on stand out. Other artists describe her images as fun, playful. She uses so much color. Like the backdrops are really cool. I really like that. That's why I got some backdrops myself. Um, and so like her lighting is almost like very realistic from like a sunny day, but it's almost white at the same time. All the pictures are not taken outside though, taken in a studio inside. And many critics say that she has this sarcastic approach to photography, and I would agree with that. I think that she really like breaks down photography to the bare minimum almost, where like there's not too much going on, but yet that's what's so great about the picture. It's like you can focus on what you're supposed to focus on, and it's very pretty to look at, honestly. And so she describes her own images as being grounded in dreamlands and consciousness, while she herself is generally dreaming. And I think that says a lot about her. She seems like a very like almost trippy person, very creative, and this is very evident in her pictures where like certain angles that she takes, certain colors, certain things that she decides to photograph seem to be very dreamy, very unreal, but yet real at the same time, if that makes sense. And so here are some of her images. I like these a lot. So basically, like in her photos, there's a lot of good white balance. It's almost like neon to fluorescent white lighting with like a colored backdrop. And it's kind of like unique to see something like that because like the exposure isn't too high, but yet it looks kind of like whitish lighting. Like the skin is not too pale where the exposure would be very high. It's kind of a medium exposure, very realistic. And the studio like has clearly like some good lighting, some whitish lighting. That's why I said it almost looks fluorescent, almost like they're using those like new better for the environment light bulbs where they're like kind of whitish, if you know what I mean. And the pictures are mostly front lit with like minimal to underlying shadows. And like you can kind of see that in the one in the left corner, the top left corner, with the perfume bottle. Like there's not really many shadows besides like under the subject, which is this person. And the same for like the woman under her and the Coke bottles right there. Like they kind of just look like they're just there. Like you can't even really tell that those Coke bottles are on a floor with that color and like the minimal shadows and stuff like that. So the front lit pictures definitely give it some cool effects. But those colors are honestly what has been drawing me to want to mimic her pictures. Like those backdrops are something that I'm doing myself to copy, or should I say mimic her style and taste. And I'm also trying to like get some white lighting in the room that I'm taking the pictures with that backdrop setup. But another thing about her pictures is that there's a medium to short shutter speed that's likely used. This is evident throughout how the pictures have very bright yet also frozen action at the same time. I think that it's fair to say that it would be from 1/60th to 1/500th of a second for that shutter speed that she uses. And that's just a range. It might not be completely accurate, but like from what I'm thinking of and the way that shutter speed correlates with the way that pictures look, that's what I would say. And so you can tell this because like all of the pictures don't really have any blur, and there may be some motion right before, and even if there's not, you can just see that it's a frozen action picture, and that only really happens with closer to shorter exposure, yet the picture is so bright that it might be towards the middle, if you know what I mean. So She also uses a medium to shallow depth of field, and this is evident because the pictures are still bright and lively, and like that light is allowed inside the camera more, as like it's more open, with the F count being probably from like 5.6 to 5.1 to F scores of like 1.4. And that's just another range for that aperture. I think it's pretty fair from looking at the pictures. They look pretty bright to me. You can kind of still see like the true colors of the images that were taken in the subjects without having this like super high exposure. And let's move to the next slide of pictures. So um, you can kind of see that in all these pictures as well. They all kind of have this similar vibe to them, and they use like this low ISO sensitivity. There's not really many noise, there's no fuzziness. The pictures are very sharp. Like I said, they're real yet surreal at the same time. It's kind of like weird timings of the pictures, or weird angles, or just like weird objects in it, because especially this I Fought the Law thing has some comical props and ideas for these laws. But for the most part, you can see that in these pictures, there's not many shadows. There's one that doesn't have a person in it, this pie one with the cheese on top, that looks kind of weird, but like I said, very like funny, kind of captures your attention. And then you barely see any shadow with that shoe, and it's a heel, so like you're supposed to see like something under it if there's something on top of it, if you're gonna see a shadow. And um, some of these didn't come out super clear, but you can clearly see the skin tone is accurate. That probably has to do with all of the brighter yet medium exposed pictures and settings that she probably used. And here's a lot of my favorite ones here, but the next slide is actually my favorite pictures from her. And I just think like the way that she shoots, and like for example, the picture in the top left, it's kind of like a peculiar idea of an image, like some water coming out of a guy's mouth. But because the skin tone is accurate and there's that blue background kind of accent, like the lighter hair, the lighter skin tone, I think that the image comes out really well, like very appealing to the eye. And then again, there's also like the bottom left where like there's something more going on that's like also kind of weird. But then like there's his clothes, all the contrast and different colors that make the image pop. Like I could see that on the cover of a magazine, or even it is in that book that she made. So I mean, I could see why people would like to buy that book and have that in their house and stuff like that. Also, another thing that she does is the focus of the subject sometimes is at different points in the picture. Like if you go back, here it's in the middle, as you can see where the mouse is, like where the foot and the backwards heel is. But here, like, it's kind of more like not centered because the guy is not fully centered. So she kind of varies where she like has the focus of attention, but it all really relies on that backdrop and like that consistent color in the back that like just makes this person the focus. And then this right here, like, she uses multiple people here, and kind of like a very unique way to like photograph a person, like a profile with technically side light, but the camera is facing the side of her face, so it would be front lit. And then this one just has a duck on this guy's head. I mean, like I said, that has to do with the law thing, but just like this overall weird dream, weird idea vibe that she gives off through her pictures is something that I really appreciate, and I think has to do with the way that she shoots in general. In this picture, like, the focus is kind of towards the bottom here, like there's multiple levels. She doesn't really take advantage of this line right here where it switches colors in all the photos, but I think it looks cool in some, especially where you can see like multiple levels of this picture, and then you see multiple colors and this white contrast with that blue, but then that darker green contrast with that lighter blue. And I think that that's something that she probably does intentionally. I was thinking about when I take my pictures with a colored backdrop, how would I do it? And I'm going to definitely have whoever I'm shooting, probably my sister or my friends or something, because of this coronavirus lockdown thing. I'm probably going to have them wear certain colors that would contrast best with that backdrop, because that would make the picture come out the most clear, the most eye-popping, which is what she kind of goes for. So here are my favorite images of hers. This one in the bottom left, the yellow one with the yellow backdrop, it's not in the I Fought the Law series, but it still maintains the same consistency, the same more shallow depth of field, and also like that one single colored backdrop with this contrasting black. I think that the way that the hair is and the way that the person is looking into the camera, it's giving this like weird vibe that's consistent with the pictures in I Fought the Law, and I really like the way it looks. Kind of reminds me of one of those like genius lyric explanation videos where they have that yellow background, but I don't think this guy's a rapper or something like that. So it's kind of just her doing her signature style of photography. And then this one on the top left, it looks almost political, but it really is actually something with that I Fought the Law. This person is painting on the flag. You're not allowed to do that in certain states or something, especially not in public. Like that would be like considered some type of defamation. And so I like the way that she used a kid. Kind of adds some innocence. The green accents the pink pretty well. There's just a lot of more color than usually in her pictures due to this law and this specific idea that she was trying to capture. And then here I also like this purple with the light blue. It reminds me of this iconic colorway of this basketball team, the Charlotte Hornets, and it's just like very well contrasted, very well exposed. Like it just looks very realistic, yet it's still bright at the same time. And I think that that's very easy to do for her, considering she's in a studio. It would be harder to do something like this outside, but that is why she has these colored backdrops after all. And then on the right is my absolute favorite one by her. So like I said, she mostly shoots people, and just like I like white backgrounds a lot. Like I think that they would take advantage of whatever colors are on the subject, or like for example here it's the red hair, but then it's also like this face paint, and she also likes to photograph a lot of like nudity, but not almost explicit. In her other series they're more explicit, definitely not as much in this I Fought the Law one, but this picture just gives like a very alarming like vibe. Like it's very odd. It looks unique. This person kind of looks like a disciple of the Ultimate Warrior. I don't know if you guys know who that is from the WWE, WWF or whatever back in the day, but you got that same face paint, kind of like some rebellious, very interesting look that kind of goes along with the modern times and like being yourself. And I think that that's another thing that she tries to express as like her creative mind is trying to work to make art through photography. And so here are my sources. I used her website, a lot of good information there, very reliable, obviously, if it's coming from her and her confirmed sources. Then Everpedia has a lot about artists and like stuff that you might not be able to find on like formal websites like hers. And then Vice and Complex both did articles about her, and she actually has worked with both of them. So they obviously have high praise for her and know her well. The I Fought the Law thing really blew up. Back in 2013, Complex was writing about it before she was really even working with Vice and Complex at that point. And Vice, even in this link, shows her as a contributor. She's very big in the editing and art stuff going on over there, so that's why I had to use that. And then the Complex more talks about just that series in general, and I use some of the images off that website specifically. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know. Thanks.